Right, that should be it. 1 second. Yes. Right, hello, welcome everybody, one and all, whoever is joining me today, or whoever is, if you're watching the old recording. This is the second session, going over Khorne and Kislev army, and right now we are going to take a quick look at, go into this, the leadership of both Khorne and Kislev. Didn't get a chance to last session because the tier list didn't have him on for some reason. So, well, I think we started with Kislev last time, so we'll start with Kislev here, just to keep things organised. Kislev has a much larger variety of leadership. You'll also notice that there is no Boris, bear guy. I'll make sure to cover him. His stat card is on the screen here, so I'll bring him over in a second. So, first of all, we have the El Generico Lord for Kislev, which is the Boyar. On foot, he is an anti-infantry lord. He is, of course, the cheapest, and with most generic lords, that is usually why you bring them, just because they're really cheap. And that means you can dedicate part of your army to other areas. He gets the Warhorse, Warbear mount options. The Warhorse mainly just increasing his speed, and the Warbear allowing him to do some armor-piercing damage and cause that fear as well. He also comes with Heroic Resilience, which I believe all the Kislev leadership do. Deadly Onslaught, Foe Seeker, Stand Your Ground, the usual. Blood of the Motherland, which applies an AoE buff, Expert Charge Defense and Melee Defense. This is better spent on infantry, so if you are using this, you'd want to use them on foot for that. And he also has the Axe of Tor, which activates when he recharges when he's in melee. Again, not great for a cavalry. He's more suited to be on foot, purely because his items are, and because it makes him the cheapest as well, if you put him on foot. And his stats aren't anything too major. He does have that anti-infantry bonus, which is again why you want him on foot. Yeah, he's just a generic Boyar Lord. Not an awful lot to talk about. He has the usual Kislev abilities, and that is it. If you want somebody on a bear, I'd recommend you either get Kostaltin or Boris. I have a stat card here, I don't know how I forgot his name. Boris, but first of all, going over Kostaltin, he is very similar to a warrior priest from the old Empire. He has no magic, but he does have these prayers that he can use to buff everyone around him. Taking a look at his stats, he is definitely slightly, he's very similar to the Boyar, but he lacks the armor and the increased weapon strength and charge bonus, but he does actually have more melee attack, as well as having more leadership and the fire and magical damage. So all in all, he's really just a better Boyar, because he comes with all of his prayers, and the loss to weapon strength and charge bonus is made up by all of his abilities that he gets with him. But going through those, he has his AoE prayers, plus 36% charge bonus, plus 8 leadership. This is perfectly used on cavalry, of course, for that charge bonus. Also, that means you want to put him on a bear, typically. I find that he works best on a bear. He does come with the Warhorse and Warbear option, but more often than not, I see him on the bear. For his generic abilities, ignoring the prayers for a second, Ursun's Ward, which means he regenerates constantly as long as his hit points are lower than 25%, which is quite handy. Regeneration on a Lord is always quite strong. The Courage of Sacrifice, which is when his hit points are less than 30%, he gets a bonus to leadership and melee defense. Blaze of Devotion, which is really good. It gives everything in an area, all friendlies in an area around him, flaming attacks, melee attack and leadership. Now, it's not so good currently because there's not much with a fire weakness, except from the occasional Nurgle unit. But, of course, when Immortal Empires comes in, this will definitely be a lot better, the flaming attacks. I mean, the melee attack and leadership's already good baseline, but the flaming attacks just adds an extra step onto that. Ursun's Roar, I just talked about. Daz's Son of Winter Sunlight, minus 100% vigor per second. This basically just gives you a full vigor refill to all units in range, which is really, really good. If you're having a squad of cavalry and they are exhausted by the end of a fight, giving them a full vigor recharge is really powerful. Cannot understate just how good that is. Salak's Lullaby, that is an AoE heal, similar to Earthblood. I think it's got pretty similar healing to Earthblood as well. But its recharge sections, should be noted that the recharge for all of these are 90 seconds, I think. Apart from that one, it's only 60. But typically you have to wait quite a while to use these, so you want to use these at the precise moment, because you'll be waiting like a minute and a half before you can use them again. Tor's Battle Hymn, just a flat plus 40 melee attack to everything around. This is the same as the Greenskin spell that gives that plus 40 melee attack. Very powerful, very strong, and as long as you've got a good squad of units following Kislev around, whether that be a squad of bears or just a good chunk of cavalry or anything for that matter, he will massively increase their damage output and his own as well, because these do affect him as well. His item, the Brazen Mace of Urson, activates when he is below 50% of his HP. And it gives him just a flat plus 25% to weapon damage and armor piercing. So of course, if he has this, he does surpass the damage of the Boyar in terms of weapon strength. But he's more of a supportive lord. His damage output itself is really good. But if you wanted a singularly damaging lord, you'd want Boris. I think I can get Boris up here, 1 second. Give me 1 moment. Boris, just like the rest of the Kislev lords, is available on a horse and bear. If I can try and find him here now. Is that it? Nope. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, tell me the stats here. Okay, well I've got the wiki stats up here, that'll do. How about I just switch screens to the wiki? Go away, ad. Actually, no, I can just put it on here. There you go. Put this one up here. Here we can see, taking a look at Boris's baseline stats. His leadership 75, 50 melee attack and 55 melee defense. Comparing that to, say, a Boyar on foot, you see 50 melee attack, 40 melee defense. Definitely a lot stronger than your average Boyar. His cost does also, of course, go up because he is the more expensive one version of a Boyar, basically. He gets his bonus versus large of 25, which is very large. Get it? I guess similar to Kislev, actually similar to a lot of the Kislev lords, melee lords that is, he is best suited on a bear. Throw him in with the rest of your bears. He's not got the support that Kislev has, but with his abilities, if they have him on here, and they are, Shard Blade, which if I go into here, is a direct damage area, everyone around him, which just does really good damage to, I believe it's better suited for single entities, isn't it? Yeah, that's what definitely, and it also gives the negative to speed. And he also gets Armor of Urson, which is a augment that increases that so long as he's lower than 50%, he gets an extra 18% weapon damage and plus 12 melee attack. So as you can see, he is much more focused as a damage dealer. He comes with the usual Kislev Lord abilities as well, but compared to Kislev, which is more for support, Boris is definitely a lot more of an anti-large damage dealer on his own. Taking a look at the magic casters for Kislev, we have the 2 generic Ice Witches, one of Ice and one of Tempest. We'll be going into the laws in a later video, they probably still need to be ironed out a bit, so I'm not touching those just yet. But just looking at a base lord, she herself can also again be put on a war horse and a war bear. A lot of commonality in that. The abilities they come with, Guardian Call allows her to summon a snow leopard, which is a 700 gold unit, and it's a pretty decent one at that, so it's definitely worth bringing her just so you can summon a snow leopard. She also gets the Glacial Blast, which is a small explosion that she can use to slow stuff down. Iron Ice Armor, Hex around her, and Snowflake Pendant. This is for the Frost variant, I believe, and then if we switch over to the Tempest one, or was that the Tempest one? Go back to the Ice one. Oh no, it's the same for both. I thought it was different. So you're looking at the Iron Ice Armor, it is a constant Hex around her. It's constant, this doesn't have to be activated. Minus 8 melee attack and minus 10%, so if anything's trying to gank her, this will make it slightly harder with a minus 8 melee attack. She also can pop this little ability to improve her recharge rate and drop her miscast chance if you're intending on overcasting a lot of spells. And that is really all there is to be said for the generic Caster Lords. It's a generic Caster Lord. Looking at the Queen herself, Frozen 2, Tsarina Katerin is a beefed up version of the Ice Witches. Her stats are considerably better. She is much more of a capable melee fighter. These two aren't really that suited for melee, even if you put them on a bear. You'd be better off just getting one of the boyars. Tsarina herself comes with the Law of Ice Magic. And she also gets Stand Your Ground and Arcane Conduit, which I don't believe the base one. They get Arcane Conduit, but they don't get the Stand Your Ground. Instead, they have the Snow Leopard. She doesn't get to summon a Snow Leopard. Instead, she gets Stand Her Ground, as well as Ice Shard, which is a magic missile, as opposed to the Explosion. But she does get her item, Frostfang, which is a solid explosion as well. Honestly, I think it does way more damage than the generic one the generic lords get. And she also gets the Crystal Cloak, which means whenever she's casting, she gets a plus 20% damage resistance, which definitely does help if you're using her more in a melee situation. If you're keeping her back just as a caster, it probably isn't worth bringing this, but this is always nice as an extra 2 explosions you can pop onto any infantry you need to deal with. Now, looking at the heroes, which are the smaller versions of the lords, pretty much, we have the Patriarch, which is basically just a smaller version of Castelton, with all of the prayers we've seen so far. Again, Warhorse, Warbear mount, as well as these unique items, gets an extra +5 and +5 melee attack in a constant area around him, as well as Daz Braziers, a constant area around him. Vigor reduction? Reduction sounds negative. Improvement, because it drops reduction. It makes them less tired. As well as a heal per second of 0.1%. And that's a constant heal. That doesn't depend on like how much health you're at. As long as you're in melee, you will be constantly replenishing hit points to all units around you. So it could be argued that it's better sticking a Patriarch with your Warbears instead of Consultant, because he doesn't get that constant AoE heal. He does get the heal prayer, but so does the Patriarch. So it could be arguable if you want a big bear squad, you stick a Patriarch on a bear instead of Castelton. The generic Frost Maidens are your smaller versions of the Ice Witches. Again, they come in Frost and Tempest variety. Glacial Blast, we've seen it before. Snowflake Pendant, we've seen it before. And curiously enough, Gustavus Egg. I can't pronounce that. I'm not East European. But it is a freeze, and it's basically, if you've ever heard of Ice Block, it's basically you freeze your caster in place for 33 seconds. They become unbreakable and they can't die. That doesn't mean they can't take damage, it just means they can't die. For 33 seconds they are unable to move, but they also can't die. Fairly niche situations to this. It definitely has its uses, but I think it's more of a get out of jail free card. If you're prone to accidentally throwing your lord into a mess, this can definitely come in clutch. Swoop in some infantry to save them while they're stuck in a cube. But it's a get out of jail free card. It's designed that you're going to be in a really bad situation. Now, of course, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes a Bloodthirster flies overhead and you can't really avoid that. And you can avoid like all the damage if you pop this. So it definitely has its uses depending on if you're expecting your lord to get shot at or stabbed or crushed or everything else that happens in Warhammer. That is it for the leadership of Kislev. We shall now switch on over to Khorne, Blood for the Blood God and such. Starting off with the smallest Khorne boy, Herald of Khorne. He is a little lord. Bonus versus infantry, armor piercing, magic flaming attack. I'm pretty sure everything here has magic flaming attacks apart from the cultists, so that's a common theme with Khorne. They like fire and they like being demons. So pretty decent melee attack. That bonus versus infantry of 20 puts that up to like an 85 versus infantry. So yeah, definitely a lot of melee attack. 70 leadership solid. Not a lot of armor and not a lot of melee defense. So definitely prone to dying. So try not to keep him in too long in a prolonged fight if he can't kill things quickly. But you just throw him into infantry, but don't get him surrounded by infantry. He can be put on a Juggernaut and a Blood Throne. The Blood Throne is of course the big old chariot, and the Juggernaut is the bigger armor piercing anti-infantry monster. The Bloodthirster just helps out a lot with the armor situation, upping the armor by like 60 points, and it also increases some nice charge bonus, so you don't get bogged down too easily. So all in all, I'd put him just on a Juggernaut if anything. It also increases the speed, of course. The Blood Throne depends on what armor you're facing. Of course, it drops his melee defense even more, drops his melee attack, and it makes him a lot more. It basically just makes him a chariot lord. You just tend to lose out on a couple of things there, so I'd recommend putting him on a Juggernaut. In terms of abilities, Revel and Slaughter, which is a constant as long as he's in melee. He gains +8 leadership and +8 melee attack, and he also gives that to all allies in range. Foe Seeker, Deadly Onslaught, we've all seen this before. Locust of Wrath, again a big +40 melee attack. This is a not constant, of course. This is a activatable ability with a 25-second duration. Pretty solid. Again, if you put him on a Blood Throne, you'll notice that you just move around too much, so you end up just like throwing units in and out of this area of effect. But +40 melee attack, especially with Khorne, that just almost like that's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. Definitely not underestimating just how good that is. But he is the smallest lord as well, as we'll see with the next two, which are a lot bigger targets. The Exalted Bloodthirster, the first flying lord so far. He has his big wings and he can fly around, and he just doesn't care. He's a flying monster with 90 armor, 80 leadership, 95 speed, but of course that increases when he's flying, so he doesn't have to worry about terrain. 70 melee attack, which is big. 46 melee defense, which is okay. Really big weapon strength of 580, and a decent enough charge bonus as well. His abilities, he gets Wrath of Khorne, which is a nice little explosion he gets to any units within any. If a caster casts a spell within 60 meters, they explode and take 256 damage, which is nice. Seeing he's a flying lord, you probably do want to send him after casters, and if they try and cast or something, watching them like explode is always fun. Also has a nice 3-meter radius. If there's anything near their caster, they also take damage. Bloodthirst is a bonus to charge bonus and speed and charge speed. Of course, you pop this just before you land or just before you hit something really hard, because you hit it even harder this way. It's a nice cheap spell, cheap ability as well, probably worth taking. Deathbringer is just a flat increase to damage, and 50% is a lot more when your base is already 580. That increases it by like another 290 or so. Can I gift money to support you? Yes. You know how to give me money. In person. Bellow of Fury. It is a fire breath. Not a spell. The trouble that breaths have always had on ground is they don't seem to work too well because of their angling. If you were ever going to use this, use it when he's flying. Getting a nice rain down on the enemy works out usually a lot better than using it at ground level, as we've learned from Hydras, and what was the other one that had a breath in Warhammer 2? What was the other breath? I'm trying to think. The Hydra? I can't remember the last one. It was bad. I just can't remember how. Oh, Throg, of course. Yeah, that wasn't good either. And this is pretty similar. You want to use this when you're flying, like a dragon breath, not like a Throg breath. Burning Rage is a nice little explosion that you can fire every 90 seconds. If he gets bogged down by infantry, then the infantry's screwed, but you can also just blow them up if you want to kill them even more. No special items for poor old Exalted Bloodthirster. He's just too generic for all that. Scarbrand, on the other hand, he gets a little more decked out. By a little more decked out, I mean one item. But Scarbrand is the Bloodthirster, but bigger, and he also can't fly though. Is the downside of Scarbrand is that his being unable to fly means that he is prone to getting caught by everything and anything. Now, bear in mind, you can see from his stats, he does not typically lose those fights, but if he gets surrounded by like 3 single entities, he's going to struggle about as well as anything else that gets surrounded by 3 single entities. So he may be Rage Incarnate, but he's not that good. He's good, he's just not that good. Now, it definitely has big damage, 75 melee attack, 50 melee defense, 620 weapon strength as a base, and 65 charge bonus. So definitely nothing to like bat an eye at, but it's just don't think he's that good. He's good, he's just not that good. Fueled by Rage, as long as his hit points are below 50%, he gets an extra 25% of his weapon strength. Bellow of Endless Fury we talked about, but however on Scarbrand it's worse because he can't fly. I wouldn't recommend bringing it on Scarbrand. You just want to throw him into melee, really. Wrathful Reaper. That's another plus 50% bonus damage on his weapon strength, but also puts him into Rampage, which isn't too bad. Scarbrand, if it's fast units, no. I mean, if you get caught in like halberds, or if you get caught by a slow single entity, this isn't really what you want to do, just go into Rampage. You want to leave an opportunity for you to be able to get away, because this will stick you into Rampage for like 36 seconds. You're not going to be able to do anything. You want to be able to be flexible, be able to move in and out if you have to. And so it's quite a risky play here, but it definitely can pay off. An extra 50% damage is big. That's like 310 damage extra, which is a lot, which is more than most lords have baseline. Rage Embodied turns the tables, and it said puts your enemies into rampage, which is really good for Khorne. Khorne has a problem that things will just run away from him. This forces them to fight, which is really good because usually they win the fight. So I think this mixes very well with the Khorne playstyle, and it's probably on top of his huge damage. This ability makes Khorne Skarbrand very helpful in the Khorne roster. Just don't rely too heavily on him. Slaughter and Carnage is a scaling effect. The more kills he gets, the bigger his bonus to weapon damage is, up to 100%. Typically, if you're playing against, it depends on the faction you're playing against and how you're using Skarbrand, but I have yet to see this get more than 30%, which is still good, but you really have to weigh your options on just how much infantry are you going to be killing with Skarbrand, because that's basically how you fill this meter up, is you just throw him into infantry for like 10 minutes, and you watch as it trickles in, and eventually you just get all of the 100% damage bonus. But then at the same time, if your enemy's bringing a lot of infantry against Khorne, maybe you've already won. So, things to think about. But definitely, in my opinion, I'll have a look through everything at the end, but just saying now, I think Skarbrand's the best lord there. As for heroes, we see the Blood Reaper. I'll be honest, I haven't even used this guy yet. He is just a smaller version of the Herald of Khorne. And typically the reason you bring Herald of Khorne is because he's a bit slippery compared to the big old Bloodthirsters available. And he has a more of an ingrained unit, where these two just tend to barrel off on their own. But this guy's not ingrained with the army. The issue is you don't really need your hero to be this ingrained for 1200. He gets Locust of Abjuration, which, spell resistance plus 60% to all allies in range for 25 seconds. Is good if you're planning on getting hit by spells. So maybe if you're fighting, even if you're fighting Tzeentch, there's very few spells that this helps that much against, but it definitely can be helpful, just in the right situations. That's literally all he has going for him. You can put him on a Juggernaut and a Blood Throne, but that's it. Other than that, just generic abilities. He gets his Hellblade because he's an Exalted Bloodthirster, so he gets extra damage when he surpasses 20 kills, but 80 kills even. But not that good. It's if you want like a big old angry Bloodthirster, take the Herald. And the other reason why he's not that good is because he's completely outshined by the Cultist of Khorne. If you have been unaware of the current multiplayer situation, you'll know that all the Cultists are very good. For one simple reason, their stats vary, but they are able to summon a unit of their generic demon. Khorne Cultists are able to summon a unit of Bloodletters for 120 seconds. No, it's longer than that. It's the summon duration. I can't remember how long it is. It might be 2 minutes actually. It's a while. You only get one use of that, but bear in mind if you shave his other generic abilities off, so you get rid of Foe Seeker, he gets Icon of Endless War, which as long as he's in melee, he gets a plus 8 to leadership and he constantly recovers vigor, which can be good if you're planning to get him stuck in for a while, and Sword of Anti-Heroes, which increases his damage by 50%, but assuming you're taking these off, you can drop him down to 800, and you can summon a unit of Bloodletters with him. If those Bloodletters die in combat, technically speaking, you've just got a free Cultist of Khorne, which is a pretty decent hero just by himself. 75 armor, silver shield, 40 melee defense, 55 melee attack, frenzy, so those will go up. So he also gets immune to psychology as well. He's just a solid melee hero, and you're basically getting him for free because you're paying for the Bloodletters of Khorne that you're summoning with him. And yeah, honestly, if most of the time, because the hero cap is 2, you just see 2 of these, and that's pretty much the same for every faction. You just see 2 Cultists. Maybe we'll see that change, maybe we won't. For now, definitely for Khorne at least, we just bring 2 Cultists until even when Mortal Empires comes out, I can't see the Blood Reaper being that much better. So that is it for the Khorne rosters. If you couldn't guess by my tone, looking at Khorne, I would rate Skarbrand the highest, personally. It's pretty close between the Herald and the Exalted Bloodthirster. I'd probably put the Herald second. It's not like the Exalted Bloodthirster is bad. He just has fewer situations, in my opinion, and it's pretty obvious the Cultist is better than the Blood Reaper. Looking at Kislev, it's a little bit more tricky. I'd definitely put the Boyar at the bottom in terms of lords, and I'd probably put the generic Ice Witches near the bottom as well. And then all three of the legendary lords are pretty good in themselves. I've seen all three of them played. I might put Tsarina Katerin of the lowest of the three, followed by Boris in second and Kostalin in first. But it's very close, and it could really go any way between those three, in my opinion. Looking at the heroes, I think the Patriarch is just the best. Frost Maidens are just generic casters. They do get that weird egg, which is situational, but it's a caster. You don't. Patriarch just brings a lot more special stuff to the table. And that is it for all of the Khorne and Kislev roster now. If you missed out on the unit overview, that was the last video. We shall now have a quick look at some replays. Let's see here. First of all, we'll look at some Khorne versus Khorne. Actually, first of all, let me see if I've got a Kislev one here. I do have a Kislev one here. Although I think I already showed this one. Did I show this one? I think I did, yeah. You know what? There's two. There's no Khorne, but there is some Kislevs on this one. We shall start things as we mean to go on. And even though it's out of date, we'll look at a 4v4 on replay. This is a 4v4 domination that we did. Oh god, this is like when the game came out. I can't remember who's playing who, but thank you to anyone who played in this one. Do hope the quality's alright. If anybody's in chat, let me know if it isn't. Alright, so we'll take a focus here on some Kislev units. As you can see, this Kislev army is, you know, it's probably Ted's, judging by the fact it's Kostalin with 4 armoured Corsairs, but it's a start. Over here, we have a generic Boyar. We also have Tsarina Katerin, with some units of Winged Lancers and Griffin Legion, going for the heavier cav approach through the trees. God, they look very cool. For this Kislev army here, we've got 2 units of Zargard with 2 Kossars in the back. So obviously he's cheaped out in the Lord, just getting a generic Boyar in order to get 2 Zargard, which are like 1,100 each. Zipping this through a little, we can see that this Kislev player is moving this way. I need to get my illustrations on. I'll enable those. Should have them enabled. Hold on. I'll enable them later. Kislev going over here to engage Tzeentch. Unsure on the matchups at this very moment, but I think Tzeentch beats Kislev. I think it's fairly close between the two. Here we can see the nice bonuses with the domination maps, as they've added these little ridges that you're able to position your archers quite neatly over, as opposed to just having them like jankily put in behind. Quite a nice spot here to shoot with his Kossars, which is typically what you want them to do. You do need to remember that the Kossars are, as much as they are hybrid quote-unquote infantry, they're mainly for their ranged until they run out of ammo, and then they're just a cheap infantry. We can see over here a very sneaky play from this Kislev player, as we see 3 units of Kislev cavalry, as well as Tsarina in the forest over here. If I remember rightly, actually I'm the Tzeentch player. Root for the Tzeentch player. We can also see some of that Kislev stuff being sent over to this side. So it looks like the red Kislev player has brought a lot of cavalry to just generally support and move over around as much as you want. Replay slightly choppy. Yeah, I think it's a little choppy on my end as well, actually. That just might be my PC booted up first time for today. Got that new Ethernet cable, so everything's running a lot smoother. Yeah, you can see Tzeentch Firepower doing what Tzeentch Firepower does. But Kostalin should do okay against the Lord of Change. He is quite tanky, and he is a pretty good Lord on his own. Of course, he's giving us buffs. Well, he would be giving these buffs, but these fucking armoured Corsairs are getting destroyed. Pistols work very well against most demons, because most demons are lightly armoured, like Pink Horrors and Lord of Change, so this just spam of pistol fire is very strong. He's also got some Streltsy, more armoured Corsairs. I'm pretty sure Ted was playing this one. And Streltsy, of course, looking as cool as ever with their axe guns, and a very solid unit in my opinion. He's got some more Streltsy through the middle. Of course they are guns, so they need that flat terrain to fire on. Here we see some Griffin Legion have engaged into the back. I think they also fought some... yeah, they're fighting some Doom Knights right now. And here you see just that the Kislev Knights don't perform quite as well as, like, you can see this unit of Chaos Knights here is fighting Griffin Legion. I'm pretty sure Griffin Legion are more expensive than Chaos Knights, but they're just better here. It's also, I think these guys are getting casted on spells as well. But they're still outperforming because of their barrier and just their stronger stats in melee. They're also getting rear charged by Kairos Fate Reaver, and that'll do it. But typically these Kislev Cavs are a lot more hit and run. They aren't very good in prolonged combat at all. So they're more inclined to running down pink horrors or cheap archers or infantry as they are fighting other cavalries, because they'll do well on the charge, but if they don't kill them on the charge, then they're probably going to start losing. Let's have a look back here. These Cossars doing quite well for themselves. These are now Ice Guards with swords, who have taken the post as well. I don't think these ones in the back fire, actually. Yeah, they don't. It's only the front ones that fire, which is unfortunate. Ice Guards with swords, of course, put out a lot more damage than Cossars do. And they also have magic damage as well, so they'll ignore the physical resistance that demons have, such as those flamers up there. Here in the front line we have Zargard fighting Ogres, which is not good for the Zargard. It's not one they want to be fighting. You'd rather have some spears in there than anything. Over here we have more armoured Cossars. I swear to God, if I find out who was playing these. They really like their armoured Cossars. Kostalin doing really well for himself. Of course he's able to pop those heals as well to keep him and his army replenished. And that plus 40 melee attack does really, really good. Just as long as you're keeping Kostalin near his units, he performs really well. Just because he increases how much they perform as well. Quite hard to dislodge a Kislev lord from his Kislev army. Ah, the brave soul has summoned in an elemental bear. This elemental bear will now fight one fire belcher, a nearly dead unit of Gorgers, and a tyrant. And I'm pretty sure he will lose, but you know, here's hoping. Maybe the Boyar can turn the tables. The Ice Guard are also firing in as well, so actually, you know, I've got a bit higher hopes now that there's some support coming in. Zargard with great weapons. These are really expensive boys, but they do have the damage output for it. Over here we have a Patriarch doing just getting down here to buff up the single unit of Winged Lancers that'll probably be dead soon. Zooming out over the map, we can see that the left team here has 3 of the victory points. So that's looking like it's not going well for this side. Maybe it's the elemental bear, but that might just be me. You can see the elemental bear has been hitting that fire belly for a while. I don't think he's done that much damage to it. The elemental bear doesn't seem to do much, but who knows? Maybe we'll see some stuff from it. I'll reserve judgments. It's only like what, a month into the game. Here we can see the fact that Kislev's just getting surrounded by these Doom Knights because they're able to just flank around and land in their backs. Zargard, however, once they get stuck into melee, will of course destroy Pink Horrors because they're already tanky infantry. Glancing back at the old elemental bear, luckily the Boyar has come over to save the bear, who is now on half health. Poor bear. Somebody called Pia. And it looks like the points have just been... the points are just not getting contested enough. Over here, there's some good contention going on from the Zinch player. But over here, there's just like... there's nothing. You can see these Griffin Legion could actually probably capture this point, but they're too focused on going to kill these Exalted Pink Horrors. Which, to be fair, they probably should. They should probably shut down the ranged unit before they get stuck into melee, or get stuck into capturing, but... as the pendulum just barely missed. Good thing it didn't land, because if it had done, it probably would have wiped out that unit. That pendulum needs to be toned down a little bit. I'm just going to ignore the cafe player who has 3 grand cannons. Sycophant. The bear even lower now. I don't know. Okay, now it's man-eaters with great weapons right now, wailing on the bear. Oh, and these knives. The giant bear made of ice is getting fucking sticks thrown at it. It does look cool. I just don't see it performing as well as anything else. That's a shame. bunch of spells going off over here, but we can see that the victory tickets just haven't even gone slightly in the other guy's favours. So that will be the end of it now, probably. Elemental Bear didn't get much done. I think let's take a look at the Elemental Bear value here. 1,100, so it's half paid for itself, and it's down to about a third of its health. So that doesn't math well. I don't think that maths too well. Taking a scroll through here, just at the final. There we go. So a quick display of some of the Kislev units. We'll look at it in more in a one-on-one scenario here, as we do have a Khorne replay. 2 Khorne, 1 battle. Much fun. Khorne approves of fighting Khorne. We are on Death Pass with Khorne versus Khorne. Looking at the initial armies here, we have Skarbrand the Exiled along with 2 cultists of Khorne and a unit of Chaos Warriors of Khorne Halberds. Over on this side we have a unit of Exalted Bloodletters with their shiny swords, a Blood Shrine of Khorne and a Herald of Khorne on the Skull Crusher mount. Minotaurs of Khorne either side. As you can see, this Herald of Khorne along with the Blood Shrine of Khorne, and once they get stuck into melee, be even more. But right now they are giving a good melee chunk bonus to the surrounding units, and that will be the same once they get stuck in as well. Skarbrand wants to try and stay back here, preferably, as much as it looks like Skarbrand can kill everything here with those 2 melee attack bonuses stacked on top of each other. These basically become Minotaurs with great weapons. They're Minotaurs with great weapons in disguise, because they could pretty much have the same melee attack as great weapons would in this situation. Also have some sneaky little hounds over here on each side. Flesh Hounds of Khorne. Looking for those flanking plays, obviously. Looks like Skarbrand's going to get stuck in. Yep, there he goes. Throws his axes into a poor little Minotaur. Breathe some fire on another one. And the Herald getting stuck in here and all the Minotaurs. It might be a close one to Skarbrand. Let's take a look at the melee attack. These Minotaurs are nearly up to 50 as it stands. These Exalted Bloodthirsters are up to 57. Charging into Chaos Warriors of Halberds, but really, really bad for the Halberds. You can see their health just sink away really quickly. Although some Bloodletters have been spawned into the back here to flank and recharge these Exalted ones, hopefully to cut them down quicker. Reinforcements are coming in. Some double hounds trying to stop the hound plays. Skarbrand has put some really good damage on these guys, but he hasn't eliminated any singular threat. He's just done like a good damage to everything, it seems. He's really split his damage out. If he could have taken out that Herald of Khorne, that would have been great, but it looks like he's going to be going down just because of how surrounded he is. He's trying to squeeze his way out, but no, he's turning around and swinging. Bunch of Bloodletters now spawned in as well, hoping to save Skarbrand, but he is just really low on health. The surround and like how much damage output they have right now because of all the melee attack and weapon strength bonuses. Too much for old Skarbrand. Like I said, he's a one-man army, but he's not that much of a one-man army. Really good damage output, but he is still prone to dying quite quickly, just because of the surround. What the surround does to a single entity. It's just the same as Skarbrand as it is for everything else. Here we see some Blood Crushers of Khorne. These Blood Crushers are fairly well suited to take out Flesh Hounds with their physical resistance and the high armor compared to the Flesh Hounds of Khorne, which don't have AP and they have their physical resistance. So they should do well there. Minotaurs still kicking, but they are definitely a lot more whittled down now. They haven't got quite the amount of value as they need to be getting, considering how expensive they are. Okay, these ones have, because they've been waiting on Skarbrand. That's 1. Cultists still alive in here. We have some Chaos Warriors with some Flesh Hounds coming in, as well as some Chaos Warriors with dual weapons. Although these Blood Crushers should make quick work of them. Looking at the other points, there doesn't appear to be any contention. So Flesh Hounds have been sent to capture this one, but right now all the action is focused on the middle. Blood Crushers killing the old Flesh Hounds, getting rear charged by the dual weapons, but they won't perform that well against Blood Crushers, mainly because they're more of an anti-infantry and they're not AP. Herald of Khorne here getting swamped. Here you can just see when a single entity gets surrounded, they tend to die really quick, even with these Flesh Hounds not being AP and the Herald having 100 armor. I mean, this might just be a statement on how strong the Flesh Hounds are, but they do seem to be really chunking down that Herald of Khorne. Here in the centre, these Minotaurs have got surrounded now. The Blood Shrine going down will also greatly diminish their output of damage, and they will probably see those get wilt down. The Herald of Khorne is dead, I believe, any second now. And with that, both leaders have died on the battlefield. We might not even see them resummoned. You don't typically see lords get resummoned in Domination. These Minotaurs have been routed off, and because there's Flesh Hounds here, they're not coming back. Blood Crushers, even though they're low on health, they perform, as you can see, they've performed really well against these Chaos Warriors with dual weapons, already less than half health with them. Some Spawn of Khorne coming in from there. Some Chaos Warriors of Khorne going over to capture the first objective, no, the third objective. Right now I'm going to say Red Khorne and Blue Khorne. Right now Red Khorne has the advantage, but that might also lead Blue Khorne to get a supply bonus because of the initial losing start. Should help them pick themselves back up here, as the armies are pretty equivalent at the moment. Both armies have lost their key units that they started with. Some Bloodletters of Khorne have been spawned by the red side, behind the enemy. Very strong, especially against these Chaos Warriors of Khorne, who actually have all their models still alive. No, they don't anymore, now they're dropping. Bit of back and forth here with the Khorne dogs. Over on this side, these Chaos Warriors, you can really just tell just how slowly Chaos Warriors move compared to the rest of the Khorne army. They do tend to lag behind a bit if you're using them in any given army, but they are pretty well at holding. Over here it seems the red has claimed dominance, although blue is getting some reinforcements in. Spawn of Khorne and some Blood Crushers. Blood Crushers again will perform quite well against Flesh Hounds, so they were probably going to go over to sort out that objective. Flesh Hounds of Khorne against Chaos Warriors probably goes in favour of the Chaos Warriors if they're to head on fight. So we'll see if he might just not be able to see those yet. No, I don't think he was able to see them because they're in the forest. More Flesh Hounds of Khorne. Spawn of Khorne. Blood Crushers coming over here to wipe up this side. Give this a little fast forward as everything gets into place. So yeah, over here you can see the Blood Crushers do just cleave through the old Flesh Hounds quite quickly. Instantly. And that side's cleaned up quite nicely. Spawn of Khorne against the Minotaurs. Minotaurs don't have that much armor, I don't think. Yeah, only 70 armor, so these spawns should whack them down really quickly. Over here, Chaos Warriors are capturing the point, but there is some Bloodletters going over here. Of course, Bloodletters AP physical resistance, they'll perform a lot better against Chaos Warriors of Khorne. Flesh Hounds, trying to go for a little sneaky around, but they might get cut off here by these Flesh Hounds up here. Blood Crushers of Khorne coming from this point, leaving these Flesh Hounds to just capture on their own while they come over and support over here. As you can see, these Flesh Hounds do not capture quickly because there is only 16 of them left and then a large unit. I think they're classed as cavalry in terms of their weight, so they are capturing this really, really slowly. Spawn of Khorne, it's quite a mash here, I can't even tell. If you do this it helps. So the green is the blue and the red is the red, quite nicely. Over here the clash is coming, but hopefully there should be something coming over to support, I think. Oh yeah, there is some Flesh Hounds coming over to help. The Flesh Hounds do work quite well against Bloodletters because magic damage into no armour. Do we have a bit of a surround coming on? Bit of some kickable Chaos Warriors to close the surround. These Blood Crushers and Flesh Hounds should perform quite well against everything here. Everything else seems pretty beaten up and tired as well, so that will probably go to blue in the middle. He really needs it as well. 26,000 to the enemy, and with 300 to them. Over here, it looks like red has gotten their chaos, their flesh hounds of Khorne surrounded, but there is some bloodletters coming in the back. But if blue's able to chip through these quick enough, they should just be able to run out. In case we're halberds of Khorne coming in. And this middle getting won by blue by the looks of things. Some more blood crushers going again to clean up this point because they beat flesh hounds. As you can see, it's a lot of moving things in to counter whatever the enemy's moving in. Factions that are particularly fast can do this a lot quicker, and so they can throw their opponent off. Whereas factions that are more slow tend to be able to get countered a lot quicker. Again, another surround here using the flesh dogs. Just surrounding a unit in any situation is usually really bad for the unit surrounded. And it's just the same for these bloodletters of Khorne. Even if they do have these chaos warriors of Khorne coming in, it looks like there's some blood crushers of Khorne going to again close the gap and get a full surround activated there. In the middle, this is going to blue. The cultist of Khorne does not have that much weight. This will be captured by the Chaos Warrior halberds. And these blood crushers coming over here to capture this point along with the hounds. Yeah, so if blue's able to capture these points, if you're able to triple cap, it won't matter how much red has, just because they can't gain points. If you control all three of the objective, your opponent cannot gain any points. And that's looking like how it's going. Again, red has been surrounded by a unit coming in from behind. These Chaos Warriors of Khorne dual weapons have been surrounded by blood crushers and other Chaos Warriors and flesh hands of Khorne. Hello, Incap. Yes, I know you're a new player. So again, red is sending more stuff to reinforce. Is there anything else coming in the flank to surround? No, actually it looks like they're going for the centre here. Some spawn of Khorne here to beef up this side. Yeah, this is some Khorne on Khorne action. Khorne for the cornflakes. Yeah, so right now it looks like blue, or in this case I'll just call it green actually, that's probably easier. Green Khorne has all three of the objectives, which means that their opponent is not gaining any victory tickets at the moment, and they are rapidly closing the gap. Although there is a lot of red Khorne here. If these Chaos Spawn and the Cultist don't get over here quickly, this could flip, and that could give red enough points they need to win. Here we see some good counters, some Exalted Bloodthirsters of Khorne coming in to fight these Warriors of Khorne with halberds. They'll get shredded, destroyed if they don't get anything to help them. Cultist coming down, another clash about to appear between see this I think this bloodletter unit, yeah, this bloodletter unit here is a summon, so that will be disappearing soon. This one's a solid unit and that one's a cultist. We also have a green cultist coming in. Probably going to summon some bloodletters from behind again and get another surround going. Yeah, there we go. So here we see the cultist of Khorne is summoning the bloodletters behind the enemy, then turning them around and surrounding them, and that will kill them so much quicker. Even if these flesh hounds are coming in, they're a summoned unit, who cares if they get flanked. It looks like these Exalted Bloodthirsters are being moved over here instead of the middle. Maybe a mistake. If you move them to the middle, he definitely could easily take it from those Khorne halberds. Although this fight here does appear to be a close one. We've got the spawn of Khorne with 12 models left. That is all of their models actually, despite them being on like half health. Why is he going slow? I don't know. Come on. Bit of cinematic shot, never hurt anyone. And that's just going. I think most of the fighting is focused down here on objective number 3. It has, looks like it's almost flipped. Not quite yet though. They spawned of Khorne down to 10 models, but oh, they've had Relentless Rage popped on them, which means that, as you can see, despite their health being next to like 0, they still have all 10 models fit and fighting. Which is quite a good use of them here because they are taking a lot of the damage up right now. Of course, once it expires, they start dropping, but they've put out a lot of damage, that's for certain. It looks like this point might just flip, but if he's unable to capture the other two, this gap might be enough to This might just be enough to win. All models are not alive, there is 10 left. 12 is the usual one, right? That was 16 even for Khorne. Spawn of Khorne gets 16 models. Fleshhounds, Exalted Bloodthirsters, that's not a good mix for the Fleshhounds. You can just see how slowly these warriors of Khorne come over. He probably wants, he's better off just putting these in the middle. Like, the time they get over here, they're not going to help. They can't catch Fleshhounds, so much better rerouting these blood crushers over here. Another summoned unit of bloodletters. You can just see the cultist giving his full value. If we look at the cultists right now, this one has been summoned once before. I think they started the starting army, 852 value, which is like how much he's worth. We can assume most of that is from the first encounter, and then he's able to summon bloodletters on top of that as well. Just shows how strong the cultists are. Blood crushers coming over. The points are really close at this time. Green has left a unit on each point to secure them. It looks like red is throwing everything they've got into this point. And although they've captured it, it's not going to be enough. They really needed to reroute some units to one of the other points. But even then, it actually looks like they might be faltering on this border here. And that might be it. They've overtaken. That's it for red. Unless red could quickly capture the other 2 points, which doesn't seem likely. Looks like green's taken it back out at the end. So much red. Lots of red. Oh, another summoned unit. This is probably from the red cultist. Yeah. So we've got some of Blue's Exalted Bloodletters here. Yeah, I mean, even whether or not this points get captured or not, it really just relies on the other two at this moment. And look, right now it looks like that those Chaos Warriors aren't going to get there in time. So it looks like that is a victory for green. Yeah, he's there. Yeah, that's it there. But a good game for both players. Definitely solid armies. In this situation, that one unit of Minotaurs did quite well because it shredded Scarbrand because he got surrounded, and along with the melee attack bonuses from the Herald and the Bloodshrine, they performed quite well. They are still very expensive, and I think these two combined didn't pay for themselves. This one individually paid for itself, but this one didn't even pay for half of itself, so these two combined I think just barely paid for themselves. Looking over here at the cultists, these both paid for themselves, on top of the bloodletters they summoned, which were instrumental in winning the fight. You can see why good cultists are. Scarbrand, 2,200 value despite dying at the very start and only getting 1 kill. That just shows how much damage you put on those Minotaurs and the Herald. The Fleshhounds, 1,400, 1,300 from those. Very good in those starting armies. Blood Crushers doing very, very well for themselves. We never saw the Bloodthirster. Spawn of Khorne did quite good for themselves. Good value from them. Chaos Warriors always more of a holding unit. Not much of a damage output unit there. All the Fleshhounds doing nearly more than double their value. Shows how good they are. Herald did good here. Big Exalted Bloodletters got summoned a couple times. They did well. Bloodshrine didn't do as well, but it was giving that melee attack bonus to its area, I suppose. Never saw any Skull Crushers. Cultists, he also had 2 cultists. They did quite well as well. Khorne, Spawn not doing quite as well. Dual weapons, just by being more expensive than the Chaos Warriors, actually perform worse. Bloodletters of Khorne, okay. Fleshhounds, well, the Fleshhounds nearly double their value again. And yeah, that's a pretty good illustration of Khorne on Khorne action. This is we'll probably wrap it up with this one. This is a replay illustrating just how not invincible. I mean, if the last one wasn't proof enough, Scarbrand is not invincible. There are ways to take him down, and this is quite a good one. This is Khorne versus Slaanesh. On Galleon's Cove. Domination 1v1. There we go. So, looking at the Khornite army, first we have Scarbrand, 2 cultists, a Spawn of Khorne, and 2 Fleshhound units that appear to be hidden out of the way to begin with. I do believe the entire Slaanesh army is also hidden. They have 2 cultists of Slaanesh, a Herald of Slaanesh magic, God, I'm going to say Slanesh a lot. Which spells do they have? They have, of course, Locus of Grace, the Summon of Furies. In terms of spells, Lash of Slanesh and Hysterical Frenzy, a big damage boost that they can apply. And also hidden out the way, 2 Soul Grinders as inch of Slanesh. They have a anti-large bonus of 25. So these two combined can probably take on Scarbrand quite well. As long as they get around him, they can probably take on Scarbrand. Individually, they'd get destroyed, but with the 2 hitting Scarbrand simultaneously, they should do quite well. So the Khorne army is taking up the middle position right now. Slanesh has the slight advantage here of they're able to send out nice cheap infantry that is decently fast to these control points, whereas Khorne has infantry that's a lot more expensive, such as Chaos Warriors of Khorne, and a lot slower. If we just compare, like, Chaos Warriors of Khorne are nearly double the price of Slanesh spears, and there's 10 more speed for the Slanesh spears, so they're able to reach these objectives a lot quicker and capture them, compared to the Chaos Warriors, which although will hold a lot longer, they won't be able to get there as fast. And redeployment is quite key in the old domination game mode. I think we'll see a little skirmish here between some of the Slanesh and Khorne forces. Why Scarbrand is this green, I'm not sure, but he is. Here you see a Vanguard deploy spot right there. Really quite risky getting that close to a spawn deployment. You can see units appear really quickly. Scarbrand getting Khorne out here. These won't do that much damage to Scarbrand, but it's really these 2 he has to watch out for. If he gets caught by those 2, he's probably not going to have a fun time of it. Hellstriders and Slanesh do quite well against Spawn of Khorne because they've got no armor on them, and the Hellstriders have their anti-large bonus of 15. Summoned units, actually, I think in this matchup, Cultists of Khorne don't perform nearly as well, because as you can see here, Slanesh can just run away. These Bloodletters are not going to catch them, like, ever. Some Chaos Furies of Khorne as well, just flying overhead, doing a bit of scouting. Yeah, but as you can see, they've nearly fully captured this point, and the Khorne warriors are nowhere near yet. Well, they're near, but they're a lot slower, as you can clearly tell. The middle being held by Khorne, but these side objectives quickly getting picked off by Slanesh. There is also some Exalted Demonettes coming down, which will absolutely tear apart Warriors of Khorne. So as you can see just how quickly they're able to move their Demonettes and how long it took these Chaos Warriors to get over here. It's going to take really long to get anything over there to help. Some Bloodletters are being redeployed by the looks of things, which 2 units of Bloodletters should be able to deal with the Demonettes, but not great. Some Chaos Furies here engaging the Marauders' spears and losing quite significantly, despite not being large. The power of Marauder of Slanesh. These Spawn of Khorne getting surrounded by the Hellstriders. That'll be a quick death for them. Another thing about the Cultists of Khorne here is that they do lose to the Cultists of Slanesh, because the Cultists of Slanesh have their anti-infantry. So this is probably one of the matchups where Khorne's Cultists don't do quite as well as other Cultists would. Oh, actually no, just Cultists in general don't do well against Slanesh, I think. Now Scarbrand's get himself stuck in. Here comes the 2 Soul Grinders and some Exalted Demonettes as well. Of course, trying to avoid that fight with the Chaos Warriors because it would be really bad for them. And there, I think they have been able to charge into the flanks of the Chaos Warriors of Khorne, which means they've got their charge bonus, and you just see them absolutely tear through them. Scarbrand, kind of hard to see here. Turn off some foliage. We take a look here. Scarbrand fighting the Soul Grinders. As you can see, he really puts the hurt on one of them, but when he's fighting 2, that doesn't go as well. That, and he's also being jabbed at by some Marauder spears as well. Not going well for Khorne army over here. In terms of other areas, the Cultists are doing okay against some units. It looks like they've got the middles under control. These Exalted Bloodletters will absolutely destroy the Marauders up there, so there's those 2 locked down. But over here, Scarbrand dying. It's not good, and Scarbrand definitely can't outrun Slanesh. These Slaneshis have 75, and Scarbrand has 80. It's not quite enough to get away from them. So it looks like he's going to dedicate himself to the fight and attempt to take at least one of these down. Oh, he has turned his attention to the other one. This fight not going too well for Khorne over here. Even the summon unit of Bloodletter is already dead. And Scarbrand as well, really low. Those melee attack and melee defense bonuses definitely makes him a lot less likely to hit. Here he should be trying to finish off this Soul Grinder, as opposed to starting on the next one, getting ahead of himself. And yeah, there was just overloading Slaaneshi stuff coming over on the side. And yeah, there goes Scarbrand. Over here, the middle, looks like it's going fairly well for Khorne. There is 2 cultists of Slaanesh left standing now, and they are anti-infantry. Up here at top, of course, Exalted Bloodletters absolutely destroy the Marauder Slaanesh spears. Although there are reinforcements of some more Marauders and Slaanesh. It looks like a very big bulk of Slaanesh's army is focused on over here. If this was any other army, this would be a problem. But because it's Slaanesh, they can move this over so quickly over here and clean up these points. This mobility is now a problem for Slaanesh. They can redeploy whenever they want. And these cultists of Slaanesh are getting surrounded, but the Soul Grinders are coming in to support. Summoning in some Bloodletters, likely to slow them down now. See, in a situation like this, the summon can be good when Slaanesh is forced to charge through something. But even then, if they manage to get through them, they could just keep going and not stop. This one has stopped, but this one appears to keep going. Over here, looks like the Bloodletters holding their ground. Now the middle being closed in on by Slaanesh. If Slaanesh is able to capture the middle, it doesn't look good for Khorne. Some Blood Crushers are coming in. The last attempt to take out these Soul Grinders. You can see they do a lot of damage on the charge to that Soul Grinder, but because the Soul Grinders are anti-large, they will also receive a lot of damage in return. Looks like one Soul Grinder will be going down here though. No contention, it looks like, to take the bottom point here, which is not good. Probably needs to take that if he wants to win. This Soul Grinder appears to be going down. This one is also getting surrounded by a lot of Khorne stuff. It might get locked down. Oh wait, that was one unit of summon. That was a summoned unit of Bloodletters. No, it actually looks a lot worse for Khorne. Are these also summoned? No, but they are definitely dying a lot quicker. Yeah, unless Khorne can reroute something into the middle right now, it doesn't look like it's going to go super well for him. And then on the top objective, he's also getting contested from Health Riders of Slaanesh. And as good as Chaos Fleshhounds are, they're not that good. These Exalted Bloodletters will of course shoot through Marauders just fine. They probably have their Hell bonus. Yeah, they've definitely got their Hellblade bonus now. The middle here, not looking good. There is some Bloodletters going over to this side, but they'll probably just get intercepted by the speed of Slaanesh. This quiet offends Slaanesh. Exalted Bloodthirsters fighting over here, but now with these Seekers of Slaanesh, they'll absolutely chew through those with a side charge as well. That will not go well for the Bloodletters of Khorne. Yeah, the middle is definitely locked down by Slaanesh. Not much contention there for that. And they are looking like they're going to come over here and disrupt these Bloodletters. If the Bloodletters are able to capture this point, they might have a chance if they're able to capture both points, but now it looks like this one is also getting knocked out now. And yeah, looks like Khorne has conceded there. Well played from Slaanesh. Clearly showing the strengths of Slaanesh, which we'll get onto in a later video. And definitely the weaknesses of Khorne. Scarbrand getting locked down and killed like that. He's not able to take 50 things on at once. He's very good taking things one at a time, just because he wins the one-on-one fight so often. Spawn of Khorne got shut down really quick. Cultists still did okay, but the summons were nowhere near as well as they would have done against any other army. Blood Crushers not did great. These Exalted Bloodletters did well because they were chewing through Marauders constantly. Regular Bloodletters did well. I think they got a rear charge or two. Fury's not doing that well. Yeah, bit of a tough break for old Khorne. Well played from the Slash. Oh, I forgot to look at the Slash values. Oh well, this is a Khorne video, not a Slash video. But that is it for today, I believe. I thank you all for watching, and thank you all who are watching the recording. Next week we will be having the last session on Khorne and Kislev. We'll be looking at some more replays and maybe a live battle or two, hopefully. Just to wrap things up for Khorne and Kislev. Thank you all for watching, and we shall see you next week.